And thank you, Trevor, for joining us from Forward Services Corporation. I know we'll have some people continue to log on, but we will get started. So Trevor, thank you very much, and I will leave it to you. But before I do that, if you have questions or comments, please write them in the chat, and I will be monitoring the chat throughout the session. And we are recording this session as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Beth. Good morning, everyone. My name is Trevor Stieg, and I am the training team lead with Forward Service Corporation. And Beth had asked me to come today and do a short presentation on teaching adult soft skills. So that's what I'm here to do. I've got a brief presentation that I'll run through. As Beth mentioned, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'll do my best to monitor that. And then after the presentation, hopefully we can open up the line and we can discuss any questions that you may have. So for my presentation today, I'm going to talk a little bit about background just to give some context to how Forward Service Corporation teaches adult soft skills. So I'm going to give some background about how we built our training program, where we've been and where we are now. We're currently streaming all of our training. So this is kind of a great way to show you kind of some of the things we're doing, because we are also streaming this presentation, and I'm glad everyone was able to join even though we can't be in person. I'm going to talk specifically about the classes we offer, and then I'm really going to get into how we teach soft skills and kind of run you through the gamut of how we program our lessons and how we facilitate it to our learners, and just how we do everything really. And then, like I said, I'll open it up for questions. So I'll hop right in. Just for some background, Forward Service Corporation is an employment and training agency. We've got 46 offices throughout Wisconsin, and we primarily serve 2 contracts. We've got a ton of programs, but the 2 biggies are the Food Share Employment and Training contract that we have for FSET. So those are SNAP benefit recipients and those who receive food share. And then we also have the Wisconsin Works program. So those are 2 really big groups. I'll break it down a little bit more. Essentially, with both FSET and W2, the folks that are coming to our agency are really looking for employment opportunity. Obviously, there's different benefits for both programs, for Food Share and Wisconsin Works, that include direct cash payments, our assistance with food, but really our primary focus as an organization is to help everyone who comes to us find employment that fits their needs. So whether they need to be retooled because they've lost a job, or they want to explore new opportunities for themselves, whether they want to be more competitive or independent, or they just want more choices and to explore, we really try and focus all of our programming as an organization on how do we take the participants that come to us for help and get them either a job because they don't have one. If they do have a job, how do we get them a better job? How do we help them be the best employee they can be and find the best fit for themselves and their family, so that ultimately the goal is to help them get off of these programs so that they can achieve all of the goals that they have and meet whatever dreams that they have. So a big chunk of what we do is training. So we've got case managers and job developers and skills instructors. We've got just a ton of people that really help case manage these programs for FSET and Wisconsin Works. Where I fit in and where my team fits in is specifically the training of these individuals. So they're getting direct cash assistance, or they're getting help with car repairs and loans, or assistance with childcare. But the ultimate goal being better employment or full-time employment, whatever it is. We found that the best way to help them achieve that is to retool them through our training opportunities. So I'm going to break that down for us now. In the past, prior to the last 2 years, we did all of our training in person. We had 8 skills instructors, which really meant we could only serve 8 of our 46 offices. And my role, and my director of operations role over the last 2 years, has really been, how do we offer the same level of service that we had been offering at those 8 primary locations? How do we offer that to all of the counties we serve, whether it be an office that has caseloads of 100 or an office that has a caseload of 20 and it's maybe a one-person manned office? How do we get training opportunities to those individuals? How do we get job assistance and placement opportunities to everyone that we serve? So that's what we've been working on. Because we did all of our in-person training, we had limited capacity just due to office space and restrictions. Some of our offices could accommodate as low as 5 participants in training at a time. Some of our offices could accommodate as many as 20, but it was always difficult to serve all of our participants that needed the help now with in-person training in only 8 offices. This also led to a slight decrease in our employer engagement, just because it was hard to talk to employers about the graduates of our training and the participants we're working with and how they would be a good fit for the company when we would only have, for instance, an office staffed by one person. We'd only have a caseload of maybe 20 there, and we've only got one participant who's qualified for a certain type of job. It just didn't make sense for that organization or employer to invest their time and energy in working with us when they could explore other opportunities that may pay out in the long run for them. And it also, the in-person training made us a little bit less dynamic, just because if someone were to call in sick, for instance, up in Green Bay, we might not have a skills instructor that on short notice could make a drive to Green Bay to continue a training they're doing there. Now, I will say in-person training is absolutely wonderful. And if I could go out and we had the budget for it and I could hire 100 skills instructors and have 2 at every office and some spare working on curriculum and doing all of that, I would. But the reality of our situation as an organization is we just had too few skills instructors. We didn't have the ability through our budgets to hire more. So how do we work with what we have and serve all of our customers with the same level of service? So over the last 2 years, we have been transitioning arduously into a synchronous online training environment. Now we can serve all 46 of our offices. We've got 180-person training capacity on any given day of the week. Our employer engagement has never been higher, just because large organizations like UW Health see what we're doing. And they go, okay, you've got a class coming through that has 60 graduates across the entire state of Wisconsin. How can we work with you? We would like to interview these graduates. We'd like to check them out, because that is obviously kind of low-hanging fruit for us. We've looked at your curriculum and we approve of what you're doing. We think our relationship is great, and it's just easier to work with them now. And we're obviously more nimble. Just this morning, I had one of our skills instructors report to me that he was sick. He wasn't going to be able to do his streaming today, and it was just an email and a phone call, and 5 minutes later, we had a replacement that from her own home could hop online and facilitate those classes. So over the last 2 years, we've flipped completely from all in-person training to all online training at the moment. And during the current COVID-19 pandemic, it has really been a godsend for us, just because we easily flip the switch to, okay, we're already streaming our training. Yes, participants were streaming from home or in our offices, but now let's just transition everyone to streaming and doing all of their learning from home. And it's really been a wonderful thing.
Trevor, we just have a question. What were the 8, just curious with the 8 offices you serve? So you mentioned the 8 offices. Which counties are those?
Oh, well, we're in 46 counties, but we could only serve any 8 of our counties at a time with a physical trainer present in the office, just because that's before we were streaming. That's when we would send a skills instructor directly to a county like Dane County to provide a training opportunity for our participants in that county.
Thank you.
I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I think
and thank you for the question. Okay, so I just wanted to give you that background and context. I know that's not necessarily why we're here, but I just think it's important to understand kind of where we come from, because obviously our way isn't the way everyone should do it, and you take what you want from this presentation or leave what you don't want, or whatever fits your specific scenario. I just wanted to give you the context that we have so you understand what I'm about to show you and why we kind of did it the way we did. So as an organization right now, speaking of soft skills, we offer 2 primary types of training. The first type of training is a very entry-level training that we try and assist all of our participants and encourage all of our participants when they meet with us and join our programs to take. And those are our essentials workshops. I'll go a bit more into detail in just a minute on what those are, but just understand that those are the basic. Really, there's no requirements to those trainings. It's if you want to work with Ford Service Corporation and you're receiving food share, for instance, and you want to explore some workshops and build some of your skills up, you can join that from day one. The next type of training opportunity we provide are professionals classes. And again, I'll get into a bit more detail in the next couple slides about what those are, but those are really geared towards individuals who are job ready. So they've got the basic set of skills they just need industry specific training to get a leg up on any competition they might have, or just to give them the best shot possible when interviewing for a position. So those trainings are much more intensive. They're a lot longer. Our essentials training is 2 weeks long, Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to noon. And our professionals trainings are from 9 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. Monday through Thursday for up to 6 weeks. So they're much more rigorous, much more intensive, and there are requirements for those trainings. And the reason those trainings are really structured the way they are and they are as rigorous as they are is because those trainings all have employers tied to them. So we approached employers throughout the community over the years, and they've told us what they need and what they look for new hires, and we have designed these trainings around those skill sets to give our participants the best chance possible at landing those jobs. So for our essentials trainings, our primary trainings are our workplace essentials and our job search essentials. Those are the ones that are 9 to noon, Monday through Thursday. Each of those is 1 week, and I'll be talking a lot about those today because those are the workshops where we really stress soft skills. I don't know about everyone here, but when we go out and talk to employers or other organizations, or even when we're hiring ourselves, the biggest thing we run into for issues with candidates is some of the soft skills. It's hard to test for them. They're just difficult. There's a lot of misconceptions about them, and it's not as easy as saying, okay, can you format this table in Excel and hand me a document by tomorrow, as it is saying, how do you deal with conflict in the workplace? It's harder to get at that. So for the essentials workshops, we really focus on building those soft skills before we get into the rigorous industry specific training to make sure that they've got a good base layer that they can build upon when they move forward. And as part of those workshops, we also include additional workshops for interviewing, resume, financial wellness, a lot of the basics, just to really try and help round out the soft skills that our participants are going to need when they either re-enter the workforce or enter it for the first time. Our professionals workshops are our call center, office, logistics, and manufacturing workshops. Those are all between 4 and 6 weeks. Again, they're really rigorous. They're industry specific. Essentially, we go to a business that's hiring in the area and we say, hey, what do you look for in a new hire for some of the hard and soft skills that they have? And they give us a list and we build a training around that. And these have been built up over the last 3 or 4 years. And obviously we continually improve them as much as we can. The reason I included them, because they're not entirely soft skills specific, the reason I included them in our conversation today is because as part of our strategy and our pedagogy for training, we really interweave soft skills throughout all of our workshops because we just understand how important it is, how hard it is to test for, and how much of an impact it can make on an employee and an employer when making a decision. This slide I'm just going to skip through, and I'll provide my email address at the end of this presentation, but if you have any specific questions about any specific topics we cover in any of our workshops, or what the schedules are, or how we built them, or anything like that, please feel free to email me after the presentation. I'd love to have a discussion with you about that, maybe see what you're doing. I'm not entirely sure where everyone is from here today, but maybe it's something we could work together on because we're always looking for new opportunities to provide better training to those that we serve. This is just an example of one of our essential workshop workbooks, and this is just the table of contents so you can kind of get an idea of what soft skills we're covering. We heavily focus on communication, and again, I'll talk a bit about how we do that in just a minute, but this is just, again, context and showing you where we are right now. Okay, so now kind of the meat of the topic. We really, over the last couple of years, have also we improved all of our workshops, and again, we're constantly building on them, but we really wanted to come up with kind of a systemic way to approach any workshop we are currently offering and any workshop we're looking to develop. So we thought about, we practiced and researched and thought of the best ways to really help ingrain the skills that we're teaching into our learners' minds. And these are some of the ways that we have come up with, and these are things, if you were to ever see one of our workshops or participate in any of them, these are the types of things you will see, and I'll go into detail with each of these. The first one is situational judgment activities. These are one of the cornerstones of our soft skills workshops, and essentially what they are is exactly what it is. It's placing one of our participants, our customers, into a situation and asking them to make a judgment. Some of these examples might be you're going to be late for work, your childcare fell through. We try and create examples that happen to each and every one of us at some point or another during our lifetime. And the purpose of these is not only to help refine the judgment skills of our participants, but also to help them reflect on what decisions they made and what they could have done differently. It's really, I think I titled this Soft Skills, the Hard Truth. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about soft skills is you're just born with them. I guess that could be the case for some of us, but what we have found in our experiences with soft skills are just like any of the hard sciences. They take a lot of repetition, a lot of practice, a lot of reflection, and then restarting and doing it all again. And I'll walk us through kind of how that looks from FSC's perspective and how we build out our lessons. But with situational judgments, we're really trying to get our participants to understand what situations they may face in the workplace before they get there. So they've got plans in place, and we've got a lot of lessons built around that. Another cornerstone of all of our lessons, current and anything we develop in the future, are teachbacks. We have found that teachbacks, so that is teaching someone how to do something or in ways they could think about a certain problem and then having them re-explain it. If you're anything like me, I truly don't understand anything until I've done it myself. So you can present something to me or tell me all about how to mow a lawn, and if I don't actually get in there and mow a lawn, I'm not gonna really retain the knowledge and understand how to do it. So with our teachbacks and our courses, we often, nearly on a daily basis, will facilitate a lesson and then ask our participants to teach that lesson back to us, either in whole or in part. And we found a lot of success with that. So this might include something like professional demeanor. We might talk about professional demeanor in class and how to approach certain situations and what might be the best route to take. And then we'll ask the class to come back and teach us about, we'll have them create a mock scenario centered on professional demeanor and how someone is acting and whether it's in their best interest to act that way or not, and explain their thinking and constructing the lesson. And we found that after doing that, our participants really have a much better understanding of that topic and really retain it well weeks down the road, or even months or years.
Trevor, we have one question. Is this program for staff and or students, and is it a certificate? Is it a certification to facilitate soft skills? Does your organization provide independent workshops for, let's say, 25 to 200 people?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So currently, all of these workshops are for our participants, so either food share recipients or Wisconsin Works participants. They do come with certifications that are given by Forward Service Corporation. So a lot of our business partners throughout the state have looked at our curriculum or maybe joined some of our workshops to observe. And they have said, okay, this is something that we find value in. And, for instance, somewhere like UW Health might interview one of our participants who went through the workshops and hired them and said, this is great. Did they go through training? We say yes, and actually we give out certificates for this. So if you ever see a Forward Service Corporation certificate for the Essentials workshops, that's us verifying that they took this, they were here, they excelled, they did well, and now you know. So yeah, it's for our participants. We are currently exploring, and we just did our first round with our manufacturing training, the ability as an organization to offer our training to new staff of other organizations. So we partnered with a manufacturing company in the Green Bay area, and we had some empty seats in one of our classes, and they paid us to fill those seats with their new hires to go through the soft skills training that we offer. We've never done a training as large as 200, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Another cornerstone of our training are our role reversals. We have found that, especially with adult learners, everyone comes to class with preconceptions and a lifetime of experiences, good, bad, and neutral. And one great way to teach soft skills to our adult learners, we have found in our experience, is reversing roles. So if we are teaching a lesson on timeliness and being late for work and why it's bad, if someone were to interject and say, you know what, I don't see anything wrong with being 2 or 3 minutes late for work, we will then construct a lesson around being the supervisor of that employee who was late, so that we can teach them what that looks like for that supervisor and how it affects that organization and how it affects the rest of their team. And we found by doing that, that we just get, I won't say better, I'll say more well-rounded understanding of different roles in organizations and how they really can affect one another, and how small problems like being late for a few minutes is really a big issue, especially as you scale. So we do role reversals in all of our training. So sometimes we'll even have the participants be the instructor and teach one of our lessons. Role reversals with supervisors and hiring managers are big. And then we'll even do it with organizations. One example I thought of was we had a participant who had just a unique hairstyle, and they were upset that a local employer would not hire them because of the hairstyle they had. And good, bad, or indifferent, we flipped the script kind of and had a role reversal and explained to them, well, part of the reason that this particular employer couldn't have that is because you're working with machinery that hair can get caught in. And once that participant understood that and saw it from the employer's view and could teach it back and talk herself through it to the rest of the class, had a much better understanding, and it really calmed that person down, and it was just a great learning opportunity for the class. So we do these very frequently. Obviously, as part of any good training program, we also do a lot of team assignments. The great thing about team assignments in our professionals or our essentials classes is it's a great way to teach soft skills without directly teaching soft skills. Some of our participants haven't worked in months, some haven't worked in years, some have worked part-time, some have worked full-time but were recently laid off through no fault of their own. It's just the whole gamut of things. And during those breaks, a lot of times it could be easy to get out of a habit of working in a team and understanding what that looks like and how conflict can emerge and how the workload is going to look like, everything involved in working in a team. So we have them in our professionals classes do team activities, and at the face of it, yes, they're constructing a newsletter. They're electing a leader for their group. They're managing a FAW organization staff. But on the back end, we're really jumping into those team assignments and looking at how are they interacting with each other? Are they working well as a team? Who are the leaders of the group? Are they communicating well? Are they displaying professional demeanor? All of the soft skills stuff we do, we're looking at that as well and giving them just a lot of really good, hard practice instead of just theory. And we found in our experience that that's worked great. One of the last cornerstones, there's a lot, these are just the big ones, but we do a lot of breakout sessions as well. And it's kind of like the team assignments. We use GoToTraining, which is great. Beth, thank you for choosing that platform for today. But with GoToTraining, you can host breakout sessions where you can take everyone who is streaming the training and you can break them out into different groups, and they kind of go in their own room where they can talk with one another and no one else is there. So we do that a lot during class, and especially now with everyone streaming from home and no one's in an office with our organization. It's a great way to break out teams and mix and match people and work on different projects. So we use breakout sessions in conjunction with our team assignments quite frequently. And again, that's worked really well because especially with larger classes, it's hard to get the practical application of the skills you're trying to build and assess when it's a group of 50 people in the room. Everyone can't get the the really unique attention that they need. Whereas with breakout sessions, if you break that group of 50 people in a room up into 10 groups of 5, it's much easier for the facilitator to hop into a group of 5 and assess how they're working together and how each individual participant is doing. Okay, now, so I talked a bit about our cornerstones and kind of what we try and infuse into every lesson and some of the tools that we use in all of our lessons. And now I'm really going to talk about what goes into designing a lesson with learning objectives and assessments, and how we are taking a lesson that we're building or a lesson that we have and how we are understanding that we're getting what we need to get out of it from our perspective and from the participant perspective. So if I'm teaching a participant how to format tables in Excel, or I'm teaching a participant how to have a difficult conversation with the supervisor, how the heck do I know that this lesson is going to do that for them? How do I know it's going to be effective? And a lot of this, if this looks familiar, a lot of this is based on a book. I believe the author's last name is his name is James Lang, and it's called Small Teaching. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it before, but a lot of this is based off that, just so you're aware. I don't want anyone to think I'm plagiarizing or just acting like I made this stuff up, because I definitely didn't. So the first part of any lesson that we have involves predicting, and that is asking one of our learners to predict what they're going to learn about. So let's say we're going to talk about what should go on an application for a job. Before we show them an application for a job or discuss what is important to have on there, we just ask them to predict what they think might be important, to predict what sorts of questions they might be asking. We found that this really primes the learner to learn what we're about to teach them. So they make predictions, and that will be important later on too. The second piece, after they've made predictions, without really addressing their predictions at all, we jump right into a brief introduction. So this is maybe 20 minutes of talking about the project. One thing we started doing when we were completely new at training as an organization, we did what nearly everyone does. What I'm doing right now, I guess, is it's just talking, just speaking really nonstop at your learners. If anyone has ever been to a high school or a college lecture where you're sitting there for an hour and a half and the instructor just talks the entire time, it is just really difficult, at least for me, to learn in that environment. I'm probably going to fall asleep. So we just make this introduction very brief. We cover the basic bases of whatever we're trying to facilitate. So again, if it's for using our application analogy, this would just be the super basics of an application. What is the purpose of an application? What overall might it look like? And what are the employers trying to really get out of that application you're filling out? So we do our brief, maybe 20-minute introduction, and then that leads us to the participants, our learners, diving in. So before we have given them all of the information they need, we ask them to jump right in and start working on something. Using, again, I'll just continue to use the application analogy. This would involve maybe giving them a fake application for a company and asking them to fill it out. Or it might involve, okay, based on our brief introduction and what you've predicted, create an application you think an employer might find useful for their program. And we ask them just to jump right in and start working on things, start thinking about them, and addressing what they've just learned. After the dive-in, we always come back as a group and we discuss what they thought about the activity. And usually the dive-in involves an activity. We'll discuss what they thought about it, what they found challenging, what they learned, what they didn't know, any insecurities they have about it, all of that. It's time for questions as a group to do some group learning and figure out where our gaps in our understanding are so that we can address them. After we've talked and did a bit more addressing of those misconceptions, we do some more learning. So we build off of the introduction we've done and the activity we've done, and we jump into the specifics. So now we're looking at, okay, why is the application asking you if you're a US citizen? Why is the application asking you this or that? What is important on the application. What information must you have on there? What should you refrain from saying, if anything? What should you discuss? What are the steps for turning it in? How do you follow up? All of that. We do more learning at this point. And then we ask the participants as part of the assessment to demonstrate that learning. So now after we've predicted and done a brief introduction, they've dived in, they've got their hands on the material, they've done an activity, we've discussed it as a class, we've addressed our group and personal misconceptions and done more learning, we ask them to demonstrate it. So this would be the point where we might take an application they're looking to fill out and give it to them and have them fill it out and then review it with them. We have found that this process has worked incredibly well for us, much better than the processes we used to have when we started years ago, where it was really just kind of lecture format. This gets our participants' hands on the material, especially now in a streaming environment. It's very important to keep learners engaged and have them working on something so they don't fall asleep, which I completely understand. And this has just worked well to kind of hone the skills of our participants. We've seen a lot of really great success out of this, and the information we found is just retained for much longer. We'll have participants write us a year after they've taken these workshops and say, hey, I took your call center professionals course and I learned all about how to handle myself in a professional manner and write professional business emails, and obviously all of the hard skills of being a call center associate. And I started as an entry-level call center associate, and now I am the team lead for the call center training team. And this actually happened in one of our most recent classes. After a year, participant was promoted to the lead of the training team of that call center because of the skills she gained in the workshops and because she had practiced these soft skills so rigorously, just like a hard skill, and then also included the hard skills in there. She was able to retain that information and really use it to the best advantage that she could. So this is what, obviously by no means there's 1,000 learning models out there. Is this quote unquote the right way? This is just how we have decided to do it and what has worked well for us. And we do amend it frequently whenever we have new information or we learn something new or how to better help our participants. We'll amend whatever we have. This is just a Bruce Lee quote. I threw this in here because this was kind of a fearful time, I think, probably for everyone, but for our organization as a whole, we had a lot of fear and uncertainty in the populations we serve because all of a sudden there was no longer an office you could go to get the critical help you needed when you needed it. And through that kind of fear and working through those issues, we've really come out better as an organization. It's really driven us to come up with new and unique ways to offer our services. Training was an easy one because we were already training, but for other services like our job retention services and car loans, just general appointments, all of that, this situation kind of forced us to reevaluate how we look at those and make sure that we're still able to offer the same level of service we always have. And if any of you are going through that right now, I just thought this is a nice break in the presentation to throw up a happy picture of Bruce Lee. And then I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but I've got time for any questions that we have. Maybe we could open up the lines. I know it's large, it's difficult with a large group of people and muting, but I'd love to talk to some of you about your specific questions if you had some.
Absolutely. So yeah, why don't we, folks, if you can raise your hand, I can unmute you. You could also write in the chat box, but yeah, like Trevor said, it's always nice to hear a question. So I'm happy to unmute folks. Michelle, I know you had a question, yep, so I will unmute you, Michelle. All right. Oh, you're self-muted, Michelle.
There we go. So Trevor, thank you again for being here. I had a question about the breakout sessions.
Yeah.
And you had listed some different topics under the breakout sessions, and I just wondered do you use the same pedagogy that you just went through in each of those different topics to get groups working together in a breakout session?
Yeah, we try and use that pedagogy in every single lesson that we build. So anything new coming anything we're currently developing has that pedagogy. And then right now, any of our lessons that don't, that were developed years ago, we're doing an audit to try and go through and make sure that that is kind of a seamless part of our curriculum development process, because we found that it just works really well for us.
And I suppose it depends on the topic, but usually how long then does that process take for a specific topic, say on timeliness or working with your supervisor?
That's a fantastic question. We try and do we try and address it throughout the training. So one of the things, I'll use our call center class for an example. Timeliness and time management is a big topic in that class, because a call center is a stressful job where every second your butt is in that seat, you're being watched and recorded, and you've got a call list a mile long. So what we try and do, rather than taking maybe like a full day to address time management, we'll take 20 minutes at the start of day 3 and address time management and maybe do an activity. And then we'll bring it back, and on day 5, we'll do an hour with time management. And then maybe in the 3rd week of class, we'll come back and address it again. So with all of our lessons, we've got that pedagogy and we address it, but we try and do it in bite-sized chunks that build off of one another. And we ask our participants to retrieve the information we've already taught them about that subject so that we can build on it later. And we found by spacing it out like that, our participants do a lot better job retaining the information and applying it.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we have a couple of questions in the chat box. The first one is, what is your usual class size? Oops.
Great question. That really depends. With our soft skills workshops, the typical class size for our workplace essentials and then our job search essentials, the second part of that workshop, or second week, is anywhere from 20 to 30. So that is a 2-week track. The first week is, what does it mean to be a professional in a workplace, really? And all of the soft skills are built around that. And the second week is, okay, you're ready to be you're a professional in the workplace. How do we get you a job? And what's important about that? So every 2-week session will generally involve 20 to 30 participants moving through it.
Excellent. All right. And so then what is the most challenging soft skill you work on with participants? And can you explain how you go about tackling it?
Oh, geez, that's a biggie. I would say conflict resolution and time management are probably the two that we have to spend the most time on and attack the most aggressively. Because time management may be a bit easier. That just takes a lot of practice and understanding. Conflict resolution is a really difficult one for us because all of our learners are adults and they come from different experiences and backgrounds and may not have worldviews that gel well together, or experiences that gel well together. It's one that we spend a lot of time on, and one of the great ways to address it actually in our classes is to wait for it to arise. So we've got our lessons built around conflict resolution that we sprinkle about. We've got our lesson plan and learning objectives for that, but then also to address it when it happens. So we could be talking about something completely unrelated to soft skills or conflict resolution in our call center class, for instance. Maybe we're talking about a call flow checklist, and maybe there's a conflict between two of the learners or between the instructor and the learner. And we'll use that situation to teach conflict resolution, if that makes sense.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? If you have a question, raise your hand or type it in the chat box.
I saw a question, it looks like from Anna Kraus, about how we go about tracking, if you'd like me to answer that.
Sure, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a logistical nightmare for us, and I'm sure some of you have gone through this as well, but when we switched to streaming, we no longer had everyone in an office where they could fill out a form or, I was here, or hand in an assignment in person and say, I've completed this. So as part of our streaming revolution, we call it here, we built ourselves a learning management system and a training website. So now all of our learners, just like you would get with maybe a Blackboard, Desire to Learn, or Moodle at a tech college, get a username and password to a learning management system where they go to take these courses. So it's facilitated live by an instructor, but a lot of the work we're doing is right there on their computer in the learning management system. And as they complete their work, that management system tracks that data for us, and we can view their assignment submissions. We've got discussion forums in there, and we kind of use that as a catch-all for everything we do, just because trying to verify that someone is doing something when you're not in the same room with them or possibly not even the same county was rather difficult.
Excellent. Here's a question. Do you serve many English language learners in your courses, and how does that go?
Currently, not as many as we'd like. This has been, like I said, I believe I said, about a 2-year process. We're laying the groundwork for what's to come and expanding our training. Not as many as we'd like. Generally, those who take our training have a fairly good grasp on the English language. We do have a lot of customers that English is not their first language, but we try and work with other organizations and resources prior to training to get them to a level where they would be comfortable and able to learn in the environment that we're providing for them.
Okay, perfect.
I wish we could. If they would give me more money, I would hire someone who speaks every language for class.
I know that's always the if we had more money.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? I see a comment that this has been very interesting and helpful. Anything else?
I guess I could just. Oh,
so what are the biggest barriers to getting people to sign up for 2 weeks of training?
That is a fantastic question. I'm so thankful you asked that, because I hadn't talked at all about that. But with a 2-week training, that's a big ask. And with maybe a 6-week training like our call center, our office courses, that's a huge ask, especially if someone is in their life is kind of in turmoil and they need money now, and maybe they don't have childcare set up. I found that the best way and the way for us, the way we approach it, is from day one, we really try and get at the center of what that particular person wants. We don't want to force anyone into anything, and we certainly couldn't do that even if we wanted to. So we help them map out their dreams and what they want their life to look like in a month, in a year, in 5 years. And then from that, we work backwards to figure out if we have a training opportunity that would work well for them to get them to where they want to go. Because oftentimes we will have someone come in and say, I need a job today, and I can't do 2 weeks of training. I need to be job searching. So part of that conversation is, okay, well, you certainly can, and I hope, and if that's what you need, you go get a job today. That's wonderful, and we support that. We'll cheer you on, and we'll help you to do that however we can. But let's also take a few minutes just to discuss what that looks like. If you were to go get a job today with the resume and what that you have and the experience you have and what we've discussed, what are you anticipating you're going to make? And oftentimes it may be something like minimum wage or less than I need to pay my bills. And then we'll work from that conversation towards, okay, well, we've done some skills assessments, we've done some interest profiles, and we know what you're interested in and we know what you're good at. If you give us 2 weeks to build on that, this is what you could be earning with one of our employer partners. And how would your life be different if you were earning that amount, or you had that first shift instead of that third shift? So we take it case by case basis, but it is a hard sell. But I firmly believe that starting with their desires and their goals and dreams and really unpacking that first is what's really important. Because if we just say, here's a training opportunity, you might get a better job after 2 weeks, it's generally not received well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was a great answer. Yeah, a couple comments. Thank you. This has been really interesting. So thank you so much, Trevor. Yeah, just thank you for being here and for being flexible in switching up to the virtual training.
Absolutely, and I know 45 minutes isn't a long time. I've got a lot more information. If you are interested at all in any of our specific programming or our workshops or how we develop them, if you just want to chat by phone about how we do things, our possibilities for partnership, just let me know. You can send me an email at tsteeg@fsccorp.org, and I'd be happy to talk with you. And thank you all so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For those of you who are coming on to Successful Workshops, that starts in 15 minutes. So I'll see some of you then. And thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.